don't need to tell you what's happening over there. I think anybody who's got eyes, who's got ears, they can see, they can hear. Anybody who's got a heart that's open, they can feel. I'd like to say a few words about the utter and almost fathomless hypocrisy that surrounds this situation. Yesterday in the New York Times there was the headline, "Truce or ceasefire shattered, Israeli soldier captured." The headline could have said, "Truce shattered, 90 Palestinians killed." But they don't do that. It's clear that from the point of view of the mainstream media, there's one side in this conversation. The other side doesn't even exist. Utter hypocrisy. As regards this captured soldiers, if indeed the soldier is captured and not killed in battle, the American Secretary of State, John Kerry, issues a statement demanding his immediate release. In Israeli jails, there are thousands of Palestinian citizens, Palestinian people, who are not even charged with any crime, who are not even suspected of anything violent. They're simply opponents of the occupation. There are thousands of these people in jail who are held there, very often without charges, without trial. John Kerry or our own government has not called for the release of these people. Utter hypocrisy. At the beginning of this horrific assault on Gaza, or even before, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, makes a comment. He said, "The other side, they don't believe in life. We do." And he demonstrates his belief in life by the murder of over 1,000 civilian people in Gaza and the utter devastation over an already deprived and devastated little enclave. And this hypocrisy is nowhere challenged in our media or amongst our politicians. That is their hypocrisy, and in this country, our own. In Tel Aviv, there's a military building. I think it's called Kriya. I may not have the Hebrew right. This military building is where the bombing of Gaza is coordinated, is where military activities are planned, and from where the orders are issued. This military building in Tel Aviv is right next to a major hospital in Tel Aviv. Now, are we accusing the Israelis of using civilian shields by putting this facility in the middle of Tel Aviv? Of course not. Utter hypocrisy. The sad fact is that people are outraged when we talk about Zionism as racism. Well, Zionism may not be racism in its theory, but let's look at it in practice. The media keeps talking about the Hamas charter that calls for the destruction, if you will, of the state of Israel, which to the Palestinians is simply a colonial occupying state. What nobody talks about is that the charter of Israel's governing party, the Likud party, absolutely denies the existence or the right of the Palestinians to a state of their own. They call for the free settlement of Jews from the sea to the Jordan River. Nobody calls upon the Likud party, which actually holds the reins of government in Israel, to give up their charter. That's only about Hamas. Again, utter hypocrisy. The fact remains that as I stand here today, and as I'm giving you this talk here today, I could get on an airplane tomorrow, go to Israel, claim the right of return, and be made a citizen immediately, with no questions asked, because I'm Jewish. The right of return, meaning that maybe 2,000 years ago, some of my ancestors happened to live there. The Palestinian speakers amongst us, including my friend Hana Kawas, who I think is from Haifa, but somewhere in Palestine, he cannot even visit. He cannot even visit. What about this right of return? If the principle that people expelled from their homeland should have the right to return, why not Hannah and why me? Now, if that's not racism, exactly what is it? Benjamin Netanyahu, in his speech announcing the onslaught to Gaza, or no, at the possibly at the funeral of the 3 settler youth that were killed, which incidentally they blamed on Hamas, knowing full well that Hamas had nothing to do with it, as has since transpired. But Benjamin Netanyahu made this speech, and he said that they glorified terrorists. They named streets and squares after them. We don't do that. The reality is that in Israel, there's any number of squares and streets named after people called Shamir, after people called Begin, after people called any number of Israeli generals guilty of war crimes, after people who were engaged in specific acts of terror against civilian populations. And yet Netanyahu was capable of making a statement with a straight face, and nobody in the press challenges him. Again, utter hypocrisy. So I think we've got work to do. The population in Canada, it's great to see all these people here. It's encouraging, it's heartening to see all these people here. It's also heartening to see that although Israel is still capable of carrying out their war crimes against the Palestinian population, they're no longer doing so behind a total screen of impunity. The world is watching. The politicians are not. The leaders are not. The media are not. And they all have their own reasons for their silence and for their self-willed blindness. But more and more people are awake. And as Sid also said, more and more Jewish people are awake. I know that 20, 30 years ago, when there was a few of us in the Jewish community who raised their voices in support of some justice in Palestine, we felt very alone, very isolated. That's no longer the case. There are significant organizations now, both within and outside the Jewish community, who are dedicated in bringing the truth to people here. And I'm telling you, in my final comment is this, that it's up to us here who know what's going on to spread the news, to tell people the truth, to direct people to the right sources. It's not possible anymore in the days of the internet for anybody to say, I didn't know and I had no way of knowing. People have all kinds of ways of knowing. All they have to do is to go to news programs that tell the truth. All they have to do is to listen to the Israeli historians who told the story of the Nakba and the massacre and expulsion of the Palestinians in 1947, 1948. All they have to do is listen to the voices like Rabbi Henry Siegman, who's former head of the American Jewish Congress and former head of the American Council of Synagogues, who tells us exactly the way it is. To Israeli historians who, like Ilan Pape, who tell the truth about what's going on. To Israeli journalists like Gideon Levy and Amir Haas, who daily tell their people the truth about what's going on. So no longer can anybody claim, no longer can anyone say with a straight face, oh, I didn't know, I had no way of knowing. You might have said that in Germany 60 years ago, 70 years ago. You cannot say it today.